Satoru Mikami is killed after being stabbed. He awakens in a cave in an unfamiliar fantasy world to discover he's been reincarnated as a slime, possessing various skills formed from his final thoughts before death. While exploring the cave, gaining new skills along the way with the aid of a great sage, residing in his mind, the slime comes across and befriends an ancient dragon named Veldora, who was sealed in the cave centuries ago. The slime, who was given the new name of Rimuru Tempest, helps Veldora to find a way to break his seal by using his predator skill to swallow him inside of his body and analyze it from both sides. After gaining some more skills from swallowing other creatures, Rimuru Tempest finds his way out of the cave after a group of human adventurers open up the entrance. Rimuru Tempest then encounters a group of goblins who ask for his help in protecting them against the group of dire wolves. Working together with the goblins, Rimuru Tempest battles against the direwolves and kills their leader, forcing them to surrender. Convincing the goblins and direwolves to live together in harmony, Rimuru Tempest gives them all names, but then passes out for 3 days due to overexhausting his magic. When he wakes up, he discovers the names he had given to the goblins and dire wolves had caused them all to evolve. Realizing that the goblins have no skills to craft houses and clothes, Rimuru Tempest and a small group set off to the town of Dwargon to seek help from dwarf artisans. Arriving in Dwargon with Gobta the goblin, but Rimuru Tempest ends up getting in a fight with some thugs and is thrown in jail. Rimuru Tempest is eventually set free after providing the guards with potions and is introduced to Kaijin, the blacksmith. Using the magicule he had gathered in the caves, Rimuru Tempest helps Kaijin fulfill an order of long swords in exchange for his help in providing artisans for the goblin village. As Rimuru Tempest and the dwarves celebrate at an elf bar, a figure approaches. A fortune teller elf decides to predict Rimuru Tempest's destined one, showing him a vision of a girl parting ways with her family. When Vesta, the minister who ordered the swords, arrives and insults Rimuru Tempest, Kaijin punches him in anger, resulting in both him, Rimuru Tempest, and the other dwarves getting arrested and put on trial. During the trial, the hero king Gazelle Dwargo, who has a history with Kaijin, exiles him and the men who join Rimuru Tempest's team of artisans. After also exiling Vesta for his dishonest actions, Gazelle, noticing Rimuru Tempest's connections with Veldora, dispatches a ninja to follow him. When the group of adventurers who discovered Veldora's disappearance from the cave, Aaron, Cabal, and Guido, are ordered by a guildmaster to investigate the forest, a masked girl named Shizu asks to join them. When they run into trouble, they are rescued by Rimuru Tempest, who recognizes Shizu from the elf's vision. As Shizu reveals, she was summoned to this world from Japan during the war. Rimuru Tempest shares some of his memories of a modern, peaceful Japan. What Rimuru Tempest doesn't know, however, is that Shizu's summoner, the demon king Leon Cromwell, has made her the vessel of the fire spirit Ifrit. Shizu recalls the anguish she felt when Ifrit inside her killed her friend, after considering her an enemy. Just as Shizu prepares to leave with the adventurers, Ifrit once again takes control of her and unleashes his flames upon the village. With his water attacks proving ineffective, Rimuru Tempest uses an ice magic spell to take care of Ifrit's minions, discovering he is immune to fire attacks. Rimuru Tempest sedates her ability to swallow Ifrit, separating him from Shizu in the process. Shizu tells Rimuru Tempest about someone known as the Hero, who took her in and showed her the right path before mysteriously disappearing one day. With her life coming to an end, Shizu, not wishing her body to remain in this world, asks Rimuru Tempest to eat her, giving him the ability to take a human form. As Rimuru Tempest seeks out information about Leon in order to convey Shizu's final words to him, a masked man named Gelmud recruits an orc that he names Geld, with the intention of bringing forth a great orc disaster in the forest. As Rimuru Tempest familiarizes himself with the form and abilities he inherited from Shizu, the goblins come under attack by a group of ogres who claim Rimuru Tempest has been manipulating orcs to attack their village. After a show of strength, Rimuru Tempest manages to convince the ogres that he is not their enemy and invites them to the goblin village to talk things over. Learning that the orcs will attack the ogre village were being led by a masked Majan, Rimuru Tempest proposes that the ogres join him as his subordinates. Agreeing to a temporary alliance until the orcs are defeated, Rimuru Tempest names the ogres Benimaru, Shuna, Shion, Hakuro, Sao, and Kurobi, evolving them into Kijins. Meanwhile, the chieftain of the lizard men senses an orc lord is controlling the thousands of orcs heading their way, sends his son, Gabiru, to enlist help from the goblins. It has been a few days since Benimaru and the other ogres joined Rimuru Tempest. Gabiru arrives at Rimuru Tempest's village to try and get everyone to serve under him to fight the orcs. Gubta is sent into a duel against Gabiru, defeating him quickly with the skills he's learned and forcing the lizard men to retreat. Later, Rimuru Tempest is approached by a dryad named Trainee, who asks him to defeat the Orc Lord. Benimaru explains that the Orc Lord has used a unique skill, starved on the orcs, causing them to constantly crave sustenance, go berserk, and even eat their own to gain more power. Accepting Trainee's request, Rimuru Tempest sends Sao to negotiate with the lizardmen for an alliance. As the chieftain urges his soldiers not to engage in battle with the orcs until Rimuru Tempest's group arrives, Gabiru, swayed by the words of Gelmud's messenger, Laplace usurps the chieftain's position and leads the lizardmen into a direct attack on the orcs. Not aware of the orc lord's true power, Rimuru Tempest's group comes across Gabiru's sister, who informs them of Gabiru's coup and asks them to rescue the chieftain and save the lizardmen. Meanwhile, Gabiru and his troop find themselves cornered after the orcs eat one of their soldiers and gain their powers. As Trainee discovers Gelmud and Laplace and forces them to leave the forest, Gabiru struggles against the orc general but is rescued by the arrival of Rimuru Tempest's group. The gang defeats the general and most of the orc army, while Sao rescues the chieftain, after which Rimuru Tempest goes to confront Geld, the orc lord. Gelmud suddenly appears, revealing he created the Orc Lord in order to turn him into a new Demon Lord. After failing to beat Rimuru Tempest, Geldmud is killed and devoured by Geld. We evolve into the Demon Lord Orc disaster that proves too powerful for the chieftain to defeat. Realizing Geld's power, Rimuru Tempest has the Great Sage take control of his body in order to fight against him. But after Geld develops fire resistance, Rimuru Tempest resumes control and engages in a battle with Geld to see who can consume the other first. Learning that Geld was on a search to end the famine affecting his people before he was manipulated by Gelmud, Rimuru Tempest devours his sins along with his body. Afterwards, as the orcs are freed from Starved's effects, the chieftain decides to continue serving under Rimuru Tempest. Rimuru Tempest forms the Jura Forest Alliance to allow the lizardmen, goblins, and orcs to live together in harmony, inadvertently ending up as the Alliance Chancellor. Rimuru Tempest bestows the name of Geld onto the Orc Lord's son, evolving him into the Orc, King, and the other orcs into High Orcs. Then he gives the lizardman chieftain a name, Abiru. Later, Gabiru is excommunicated and exiled from the lizardmen and embarks on a journey. 3 months later, Dwarf King Gazelle and his army appear at the Goblin Village to challenge Rimuru Tempest to a duel and determine his true nature. After Rimuru Tempest succeeds in blocking all of his strikes, and upon learning they both share the same sword master, Hakuru, Gazelle accepts he's not evil and offers a treaty between their groups. Rimuru Tempest's federation is formed and recognized as an official nation. 2 days after forming an alliance with Rimuru Tempest, Gazelle visits again, bringing Vesta, who apologizes to Rimuru Tempest and Kaijin for the trouble he had caused in the past and begins to work for them as a researcher. Gabiru and his sister, along with several other lizardmen, also become Rimuru Tempest's servants, evolving into dragonoids after Rimuru Tempest names them. Sometime later, Milim Nava, one of the demon lords, takes an interest in the Jura Forest after the Orc Lord's defeat and approaches Rimuru Tempest. Fearing for their master's safety, Ranga and the Kijin appear to defend Rimuru Tempest, but can do little against her overwhelming power. In the end, Rimuru Tempest calms Milim down by putting some honey into her mouth, and the two become friends. With Milim deciding to live in the village with him, Rimuru Tempest's council gets concerned with Milim Nava and Rimuru Tempest's new friendship. As the other demon lords view it as a threat to their balance of power, Vesta succeeds in developing a full potion to equal Rimuru Tempest's potions, prompting Rimuru Tempest to accept negotiations to develop low potions in the city. Just then, Phobio, the beast keeper of the demon lord Carrion, comes to Tempest with the intent of taking it over, but is promptly dealt with by Milim before Rimuru Tempest resolves things peacefully. Aftering Milim Nava's new weapon in exchange for information, Rimuru Tempest learns that the other demon lords have their sights set on him for foiling their plan to create a puppet demon lord. Later, the Border Survey Corps, led by a man named Yuki Kagurazaka, join Aaron's party and come to Tempest. Rimuru Tempest asks them to take credit for defeating the Orc Lord. Meanwhile, the demon lord Clayman takes an interest in a powerful beast known as Charybdis and sends Tyr, the Harlequin, to investigate. While Phobio fumes over his humiliation at Milim's hands, Tyr and Footman, two of Clayman's Harlequin, approach and convince him to become a demon lord himself so he can get revenge on Milim. All he must do is let Charybdis possess his body and maintain control. Phobio breaks the seal on Charybdis, and Tyr reveals she was under orders to revive Charybdis and send it Milim's way. Trainee's sister, Trainee, warns Rimuru Tempest of the arrival. Born from a cloud of Veldora's magicules, Charybdis is the mindless ruler of the skies, focused only on destruction. It summons 13 megalodons from the spirit world to aid in its rampage and is heading to Jura. Rimuru Tempest and the Dorgon Empire prepare for battle. Assisted by 100 Pegasus Knights from Dorgon, Rimuru Tempest's forces destroy the megalodons and attempt to destroy Charybdis with a full-scale attack, but fail. Rimuru Tempest then battles Charybdis himself, only to discover it's possessing Phobio, and its true target is Milim. At Rimuru Tempest's request, Milim defeats Charybdis while sparing Phobio's life. After the battle, Phobio apologizes for all the trouble he caused and has mastered the demon. Lord Carrion establishes a non-aggression pact with Tempest. Rimuru Tempest and the others finally discover that all the troubles they had faced recently were caused by Clayman's Harlequin. The city celebrates its victory with Veldora and Milim. At night, Rimuru Tempest has a dream about Shizu's regret over not being able to help her students, 5 children brought to this world. Rimuru Tempest goes to the kingdom of Ingracia with Ranga to see them. There, he meets Yuki Kagurazaka, the grandmaster in charge of the children, a teenager himself. Yuki arranges for Rimuru Tempest to teach Shizu's students, but warns him that while the two of them are otherworlders who came here, the children are summons meant to be weapons for the summoner. They have so much energy in their young bodies that it will kill them within 5 years. Rimuru Tempest vows to honor Shizu's wish and find a way to save them. Shizu's students don't show Rimuru Tempest much respect, so he decides to show them the difference in their skill in a series of duels. Kenya uses fire magic, Chloe water magic, Gale fires magic bullets, Ryota uses body enhancements, and Alice uses puppetry to control toys to attack him. They lose against the skilled Rimuru Tempest. Rimuru Tempest visits Trainee, believing the children will survive if inhabited by superior spirits, since Shizu was summoned as a child, but lived to adulthood possibly because of Ifrit. Trainee directs him to the dwelling of spirits, but with the Queen of Spirits, the Dryad, once served dead, they have lost their link to it and no longer know the entrance. While on a picnic with the students, they see a sky dragon heading to the capital, and Rimuru Tempest interferes and eats it to become a felt sky dragon. Kenya and his group cannot handle the overwhelming magicals and lose consciousness. When they wake up, they are inside of Rimuru Tempest's barrier, where they meet Veldora and the Great Sage. They are taught how to speak telepathically while inside the barrier, and also learn how to use their magic. Now, encouraged to fight again, the children challenge Rimuru Tempest to a duel in which they perform much better this time. They express their desire to stay with Rimuru Tempest in Jura, but he suggests they return to the kingdom of Ingratia to get stronger. When they ask why, he tells them that to get stronger, they should join the kingdom's military and graduate to become officers. They then ask him to become their teacher once more, and Rimuru Tempest accepts. As they leave, Rimuru Tempest swears that he will save them if they are in danger, and tells them to go to Shizu's grave in the capital, where they can always speak to him. After their departure, Rimuru Tempest decides to learn more about spirits and explore the dwelling of spirits with Ranga, Veldora, and Trainee. Trainee reveals a rumor about the Labyrinth of the West. In Dwargon, Kaijin informs Rimuru Tempest about the country of Eurazania. They have a large number of skilled craftsmen, so Tempest decides to negotiate and form a trade alliance with them. Heading to the country on an airship made by Kaijin,